Greetings to my fellow peace blunderers, and today I'm talking about something that a lot of people tend to struggle with, and chances are you, my friend, struggle with that as well, at least from time to time. This thing is how to build long-term plans in the game of chess. Especially at the beginner to intermediate level, this can be a recurring problem. You just learned the ropes of an opening, you learned the first couple of moves and you play them, you develop your pieces, you castle your king, and then once it's all done, after an X amount of moves, you come at a position where you just lost for ideas. Okay, you played what you know, and what are you supposed to do now? There are dozens of books and probably hundreds of videos out there in the internet on how to make chess plans, and they encompass a lot of things. A lot of things also depend on the opening, because when you choose to play a certain opening, you can really only say that you've learned it completely once you've not only learned the opening moves, but also the middle game plans that arise out of the opening. However, this particular video is not tackling anything opening related. I just wanted to give you one simple hack that is very likely to help you to build a plan regardless of what the opening is. It's just a common principle. In fact, I've also made a similar video to this one before, talking about how to build chess plans. Feel free to check that one out. Also, it's a banger. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the position. It's black to play, and white just played their move number 10 with bishop to f4, and this is exactly the position that I was referring to earlier. We just moved past the opening stage, we've developed our pieces, we castled our king, and this is just about the time we want to figure out what we want to do next long term. And one way we could do that, and one way I would like to talk about in this video, is looking at the pawn structures. Pawn structures are extremely pivotal to our plans in the game of chess. They are our skeleton, they are our foundations that the position stands on, thus it shouldn't be ignored. And this game is going to be developing exactly according to what the pawn structure tells us what to do. Now, look at this. Black plays c5. Now, creating that little tension in the center between the c and a d pawn, this move is okay. It may be not the best, maybe a little bit inaccurate. It's okay. And what happens next? In the next couple of moves, white doesn't have to take immediately. White plays just rook after d1, developing the rook, putting the rook in front of the black queen just in case, and this is where black decides that he wants to take the pawn. And white's like, all right, boy, good. And after this exchange happens, if white, just a couple of moves ago, wasn't really sure as to what white wants to do in this game, 2 moves later, after c5, all of this takes, white now has a clear plan. Can you guess which plan this is? It has a lot to do with the c pawn being missing. And if you guessed it correctly, well done. Now that the c pawn is gone, exchanged itself for the d pawn, we have a 3-2 pawn majority on the queen side, and this is already a very good sign for us. Not in the terms of we're winning or losing, but this is a very good sign that can help us direct our game towards something. You see, it is often good to have queenside pawn majorities because we can try and win the game, or at least draw the game now, through a very, very simple plan. We're going to be pushing these pawns forward, and it always helps when there are no double pawns on the queen side as well, when the pawn structure is intact like it is here, so the pawns are not immobilized. We're just going to push our pawns forward, and we're just going to exchange all of the pawns but one. Remember, we have one more on that side. So imagine we have these pawns gone and these pawns gone as well. What results in those exchanges is a very nice passed c pawn. Now, it may not be enough for a win, but usually it is a very good plan to follow. At this point, you may ask me, okay, so I get what the queenside pawn majority is about now, but what about black's kingside? pawn majority isn't supposed to like counteract my queenside pawn majority, and black is just going to be pushing pawns here and creating also a passed pawn. And yes and no. You see, yes, it is very logical and possible to create a passed pawn for a majority, but the difference between a queenside one and a kingside one is that the kingside one is a little bit trickier because they are on the king side. The king side can become very vulnerable. The king can become very vulnerable if we start pushing the pawns forward very, very frivolously, right? On top of that, even if black were to create a passed pawn somehow on the king side, the benefit of that for us is that we have our king here. Having our king against the passed pawn is a very, very good asset. King can act as a blockader. As an extreme measure, king can act as an extra attacker to put extra pressure onto that passed pawn, whereas when you have a passed pawn on the queen side, where the king is really far away and will be struggling to help out, it's much more efficient. So, okay, enough with the boring theory. The bottom line is, now when we have this situation going on, the plan is clear. We're looking at the pawn structure, we have identified the queenside majority, and the entire game for white now is all about this push forward. Queen b6 by black, knight b3 by white, protecting that pawn on b2, just also getting the knight closer to the queen side where the game is about to happen. Yes, hampers the b pawn a little bit, but at the same time protects it. White isn't really interested in losing that pawn, really. It is very important for creating that pawn chain of 3. And what you also need to know is that it's not the highest level of game. It's like a 2000 rated game. It's decent. Not all the moves are going to be accurate, but they will be very representative of what the plans are going to be, so that's okay. So we see bishop d7 by black, rook a to c1 by white. Wants to put the rook behind that c pawn to push it forward, which is a decent idea. Rook f to d8, developing a rook very, very nicely. Bishop f3, a decent looking move. This bishop has been at the mercy of the black knight for a while, and white decided it's a good idea to just retreat it. And it's always nice to have that bishop. And look at these bishops, by the way. These bishops are amazing for what we want to do. The placement of these bishops is very important, because if we want to push the pawns forward, at some point we want to queen them. And if bishops continue covering the a8 and the b8 square, this is going to be very, very helpful for our goals. The more pieces staring at the queen side, the better, of course, for the purposes of this game. Bishop b5 now attacking that queen, which is no right move, developing the bishop. The bishop went from there to there, it's fine. And we are playing c4, the best move, and really very sensible, pushing the pawn forward as we intended, attacking that bishop, which retreats to a4 now. Now a rook exchange is going to happen. White decides why not. The more important rook is the c rook anyway, and white decides to get rid of the d rook, which is fine. And now I've got to say white missed a good opportunity there. The best move by far, which wins pretty much on the spot, is c5. c5 attacking the queen, which is only in line with what we were trying to do, putting rook behind and pushing that pawn. And now something like queen to a6 escaping, queen takes, pawn takes, and yeah, c6. This is not looking good. This is not what happened in the game, but again, we have broken through in the queen side, which is very good for us. White did not play that, played a tamer, bishop to e3, attacking that queen. Now this is a fine move. The position is okay, still equal. Bishop cannot block, don't forget, because the bishop is going to be hanging. It's too much attack, so the queen has to go, and it goes to c7, which is again a decent move. Knight d4. White does not want this knight to get captured there, at least maybe not yet. And the point is, we want to, of course, free up our b pawn because it wants to be pushed. Now bishop to c5 by black, a very good move. We can see how black is trying to stop white from having a free roaming area on the queen side, because this bishop has less of a scope now, because this bishop is going to blocking it. Of course, this bishop on e3 is temporarily blocked by its own knight, but if the knight were ever to move, this bishop is there to contest the bishop on a3. That's the idea. And the knight does move. The knight does move to b5, attacking the queen, and this bishop is also under attack. However, this is fine. The queen just goes to b6, evading both threats very efficiently, and this is where b4 comes into play, and we start pushing, we start pressing the queen side even harder. This pawn is not hanging, by the way. If the bishop takes, we're gonna lose our queens, and that's not great. And you always need to be aware of these tactical opportunities as well. Remember that it's just general recommendation. When the pieces are really cramped like this, and when you have pawns that can press him, always look for moves that can press him with pawns, even though the pawns may not necessarily be supported. Like in this case, b4. b4 ain't supported by anything. The pawn is technically hanging. Well, at least it would have been if we did not have that tactical threat. Now, the only way for black to continue really is to exchange the bishops off, and we see the queen exchange as well, and the pawn structure has changed a little bit. We see that white has now got this isolated pawn, which can become a weakness and can become a lifeline for black too. Maybe, maybe not. And this is a point where black made a serious mistake. And really, this is a rather typical beginner to intermediate move. Black took the knight on b5 with the bishop. And after pawn takes, some black players could actually be quite happy about that, because they kind of ruined the pawn structure a little bit, for white at least, so they think. But as we will see in the next couple of moves, this isn't really harming white. In fact, what it did is opened up this little rook to wreak havoc across maybe the 7th rank at some point. Yeah, opening up this rook in this sort of manner wasn't the best idea, and it's about to get exploited after b6, which is the best move, and is trying to save the pawn and trying to block things up a little bit. But the rook now is coming to c7, and the position now is getting a bit hard to defend. Black now plays g6 in order to give the king some loft. Black really would like their rook to do something active as well, but they couldn't do that right now. Something like rook to d2, trying to attack some of the pawns, will be met by rook c8 check, and this will come with the back rank mate, everyone's favorite. So couldn't do that, played g6. And now, obviously, just takes on a7. Thank you very much, upper pawn already, and we have a 3-1 majority. And this isn't looking good for black, is it? Now, rook d2, trying to salvage something, but a4. And now we can easily see why that pawn structure wasn't exactly ruined, especially now that we took the a pawn. This is still very good for white. Like, the fact that the double pawns are there on a b file don't really mean anything. Rook b2, okay, trying to target some of these vulnerabilities, but white's just okay. a5. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It matters not really what you're going to do. You can keep taking my pawns. Whatever, I'm just going to take here. And you can take another one. And I can just move forward. And this is now what we're going to look at, this bishop on a3, which has been wonderful for us passively. It has forced b6 a couple of moves ago. And now it's facilitating our pawn promoting. It's defending it very nicely on b7, and the rook isn't tied to defending it anymore, and there isn't really much black can do in this position. The rook is going to slide into the 8th rank, and the pawn is about to get promoted. This isn't what happened in the game, however. The game ended in a different way, but the outcome is still the same. The rook did not take on b4, and subsequently on b5 the pawn took. B takes a5, but it is the same idea actually. We just keep moving this pawn, and in a weird way our broken pawn structure kind of helped us, because the double pawns were funnily protecting each other. If the pawn wasn't there, you know, this pawn is hanging, but the b4 pawn acts as a shield, and even after rook takes b4, again the same idea. Sorry, a bit too soon. The same idea. We're just going to play b7, and it's going to be defended, and we play the rook there. In the game, the rook was played there first, played there with check as well. So the king has to move, which did happen, and now we play b7, and the game is at white's mercy. White won quite quickly and comprehensively afterwards. And I would also like to stress, my beautiful people, that this was move 31 just now, b7 by white, right? And when we settled on our plan of pushing the queenside majority right here, it was move 12. So basically for 19 moves, white remained absolutely 100% consistent and devoted to his idea of playing on the queenside. Nothing, absolutely nothing ever happened on the king side. And this is a very good example of how you can win a chess game by never playing directly with the kings, right? It doesn't always have to be directly attacking the king and go all berserk, right? Sometimes it's all about identifying the peculiarities of certain pawn structures and just going for it, right? And obviously, the queenside majority isn't the only pawn structure that is notable, that is important. There are so many of them. But I hope this video gets the point across. Just look at the pawn structure, what it dictates, and try to build a plan off of it. There is a very good Wikipedia page, not just some website page, or like chess.com or something. No, an actual Wikipedia page, which you should definitely check out. I strongly recommend it, which lists all the pawn structures, all the notable pawn structures at least. And it also lists white's common plans, black's common plans. Absolutely brilliant. If you study that page and you get a grasp on different pawn structures, I don't know, like the Carlsbad pawn structure, I don't know, something like a Maroczy bind, go ahead and study them. It'll help you massively to actually understand what is happening on the chessboard. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, guys, if you'd like to learn more about different pawn structures. Maybe you want me to cover some other pawn structures with other typical plans arising from it. I'll be very happy. And if you just so happens to find this video useful, please like and subscribe as well. Follow me on Twitch. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Find me on chess.com. Join our Discord, all that good stuff. And I'm going to talk to you very soon. My favorite unintentional gambiters. Love you all. See ya in the next one.